Next, let's begin a discussion of the power of perception. Now, you may be kind of asking yourself, well, what's perception got to do with psychic ability? Well, the simple reality, everything. As a simple basic demonstration, if I have this, the span between my fingers, and that's about a physical inch, I can say that it's an inch. Well, and I'd be technically accurate and correct, it's about an inch. But my perception of scale could alter that. I could decide that that inch is now a mile. I could decide that that inch is the span of the entire North America continent. I could decide that it's the entire circumference of the planet Earth. I can decide that it's the distance between the Earth and the Sun. I can say it's the whole distance of our solar system. I can go further and say that it's the entire span of the known universe. All in the span of what I physically claim is a physical inch? That's the problem with perception. It is so open to debate. It's so independent. It requires an understanding of scale to really truly grasp the reality behind the perception. And that's the point. That's the whole point I'm trying to get across, is that it's so easy to think that we can do more because we perceive it as bigger and better. The simple reality is a lot of the so-called experts out there, what's happened is they're comparing their current life to their past life. They're looking at their fame and their reputation and all the people that they've dealt with and talked to and the excitement in their life currently, and they compare that to the bland, boring, normal, average, everyday life that they had before all of the fame and excitement occurred. And they decide that all of that is because of their ability. It's not separate. They're not looking at that their ability and their fame don't go hand in hand. They're connected, but they're not connected to each other. Their ability created a reputation. Their reputation created their fame. And their fame really had nothing to do with the ability. It has to do with their reputation. And the reputation only loosely has anything to do with ability, because reputation can, as most of us probably know, take on a life of its own. It can be so much more than anything we've ever actually physically done. It's easy to assume that, looking at certain things like Hitler, for example, it's easy to assume that Hitler tortured billions and billions of people. Well, we know that isn't true. We know that he tortured millions and millions, but certainly not billions and billions. That's the point, right? The perception has just expanded because of other events that are outside our control. And that's a problem when it comes to developing psychic ability, because it's so easy to take the first steps and then to decide that we've now unlocked all the secrets of the universe and we now know everything there is to know about everything. When in simple reality, all we've done is take the very first step. It's like, being able to play a mean Twinkle Twinkle and assuming that now I'm the best piano player on the planet. Doesn't matter that Mozart and Beethoven and Bach and, just any artist that you can imagine that's ever touched a keyboard or piano, that I'm better than all of them because I can play this one individual piece. No matter how good I can play it, it's not really a fair comparison, is it? It really doesn't have anything to do with reality. And that's the whole point behind what I'm trying to teach you guys, is reality. So it's important not to get caught up in our own ego, to believe we can do more than we really can. If at the end of the day I can move a penny a centimeter across a table with telekinesis, that's a pretty powerful skill. That's pretty impressive. But the question is, have I done something to alter it? And more importantly, what could I do with it tomorrow? Where could I take this further? In reality, if I could, say, levitate an entire car and, say, unload freight onto a shipping container or a cargo barge or something, well, all of a sudden there's a very practical, usable skill that is very different than the ability to simply move a penny a centimeter on a table. And that's the point, right? If we get so caught up in what we think, we're not really facing reality. The problem is because we don't have a comparison, we don't have anything to define it against, it can be whatever we decide it is. With piano playing ability, that's relatively easy because there's so much out there. There's thousands of compositions and different styles and different people that play piano. Like, we can pretty effectively say that this person is beginner, intermediate, advanced, beyond amazing. But with psychic, we can't. We just don't have enough people doing it that are showing their skills, that are using it to compare. You know, we certainly have a lot of psychics claiming a lot of skills that, when push comes to shove, don't really seem to do much when you put it to the test. That as soon as you throw them a curveball, they're lost. You know, and that's the point. Like, it's easy to manipulate a test when you're the one devising it and deciding what the success or failure of it is. It's not so easy when there's a defined test, when there's an accurate definition of what is success and failure. And that's why a lot of the people don't succeed, yet they believe that they are so powerful and so amazing, is because perception-wise, they think they are. And that's the problem. I myself always use the expression that thinking you know is the single worst place in the universe to be. Because if you really know, you don't need to think you know. They're different. As an example to that, if I tell you the sky is blue, you don't have to think about it or define it or justify it. It's a simple statement of fact. But if I tell you that the sky is blue and occasionally gray and has some color in it once in a while, you're going to have to think about it for a second and decide, well, okay, maybe at sunset or sunrise, and when there's a rainbow, well, okay, in those circumstances. But if we don't really have anything to compare against, how can we really know for sure if what someone's even telling us is true, right? It's all, again, based on perception. Their understanding of it is based on a subjective occurrence, not a definable one. After all, like, looking at things like pain, what's number 10 for someone on a scale of 1 to 10 is going to be very different. A woman that's given birth is going to have a complete different level of 10 than someone whose worst case scenario is a fractured arm, right? They don't relate. And yet we call them the same thing, right? We define them both as 10 on the scale. And that's the problem. So the point behind all of this is not to get caught up in what you think it is, not to get caught up on what you believe it is, but to let it be whatever it is. And it is always better to err on the side of caution, to assume that the ability you have is minor compared to what's out there. And the reality is that's a fact. Because we don't know what's out there, every ability that we do is realistically minor compared to the vastness of possibility. Just because the vastness of possibility exists doesn't mean we're going to do it today or tomorrow or even in the next 50 lifetimes. But the point is, we shouldn't assume that we've got the power of God when in fact we've got the power of man. We should be happy with that, but we shouldn't define it as all and everything. And that's the point. So, as I said, like, don't let perception tell you that your ability is better than it is. There's always more that we can do. There is always more that we can learn. And as soon as we lose sight of that, we lose sight of humanity even. Because we all of a sudden decide that we're more than we really are, and then we expect other people to give it to us, to worship us for it, to bow at our feet, to give us respect or become disciples. And, well, as we've seen in most other things out there, even just dealing with psychic ability, that really doesn't help anybody. It just creates a problem, you know? And that's why there's so many people out there trying to debunk psychic ability, because too many of the people using it are trying to rip people off. They're lying to themselves more than they're lying to everyone else, and they bought into it. The reality is there's no expert out there that can do all the stuff that they claim. No one. And that's the problem. You shouldn't even be claiming. You should be showing. Because a claim is something that is doomed to failure. An actual event is fact. It's not alterable. How you did it might be open for challenge, but the fact you did it never will be. So hopefully, again, that gives you something to think about, because perception is critical for development. It is so important. So think about that, and I'll see you next time.